Okay YouTubers, so here's the starter motor out of my neighbour's Mazda B2000U that I'm going to have to do a recondition on, because it was, when the engine was cold it was cranking very slowly. Wasn't so bad when it was hot. So I'm assuming, I'll do it by power deduction, that it was this. First of all, I'll just give it a decent clean up, which won't hurt it, you know, clean it up. Re-grease it all, won't, you know, do any harm, and we'll see if that's the trouble. If it's not, then I'd assume it's either, you know, maybe either battery or something like that, or the engine's a bit tight or something, I don't know. But anyway, we'll see what happens. It's one of those things you can only really speculate on. There's no real tests to see what it is. So anyway, this won't hurt though. It will only prolong the life of the starter motor. Anyway, so basically I've loosened all the bolts, so I'll just lift this one in here to keep it together while I'm doing the video. So basically what I've done is loosen the two off the front of the solenoid here, loosen the back nut off, so that'll just slip out like so. So there's the solenoid. Try not to get shit in it, so we'll leave that over there. This is the plunger out of the solenoid, which we'll be able to remove in a minute. Now I just take a socket, undo this bolt here, and it should lift out. The bendix, all the whole stator and everything will lift off. Now that looks like it has light pitting and surface rust on it, which isn't good, so we'll have to clean all that up. So there we go, that just lifts out. Now as you can see, all the brushes are sprung, which they haven't got much left on them. No, they're not that bad. We'll have a look at that later. So here's the rotor assembly, obviously. So now what I'll do is lift the plunger out and lift the fork. That pushes the cog out into the ring gear. So we want to keep all those little bushes and everything nice and clean. So there you go. Now there should be a bush in there, which there is. It's a bit rusty and yucky looking, so that's probably half our problem. Now try to keep track of your spaces and all that sort of junk. So yeah, that hasn't got any signs of grease left on it. The bendix assembly, it's a small bearing here which has a lot of play in it. So I'll just have to clean everything up basically first. The armature's not too bad, it'll do, come up nicely with a bit of steel wool polish. You just have to make sure you don't leave any residue on it or do anything too harsh. So anyway, that's where the fork sits, under or in there, so that it pulls it in, sucks the gear in and out of the starter, or in and out of the ring gear, sorry. My sister's just had a party, so there's all sorts of cars coming in and out. So yeah, that bearing there, I'll try and slip that off. We'll see. Alright YouTubers, so what I've done is I've cleaned up all in here with a rag and a screwdriver. You just wrap the rag around the screwdriver with a bit of petrol or mineral turfs, whatever you want to use, and just clean all the old grease out there. Do the same with all this. Polish up your armature with a bit of, I use an old woolen sock because it polishes it up nicely. Then what you do, a bit of petrol or whatever, clean all the grease out of the bendix. Now I've just re-greased all this here. As you can see, it's got all nice fresh grease on it, and it's as light as a feather. That's what you want. Now that excess grease around there I'll wipe off camera. So now the next thing you want to do, with your end assembly, do the same in there with the screwdriver and the rag. Get in there, clean all that out with a bit of petrol, then you pack that full of new grease. Now I'm just using the red grease, which is a high temperature, high high speed bearing grease, so it'll do for anything really. These aren't too, they don't complain too much really. As long as it's high temperature, it's not going to melt. So I do have another grease gun here with the blue stuff in it, but I prefer the red stuff for this type of stuff. So now this is the plunger out of the solenoid. Clean that up with a bit of emery paper or something. Don't rough it up, just clean it up, and that'll go back in here. Now I've repainted these parts because they're all a bit rusty. Now in there you can clean that up. Do not put grease in there because it'll make it sticky. You just clean up in where the plunger goes. Remember the spring goes in there when you're reassembling it, so I'll do that. Then the next thing you want to do is, once you've inserted your stator, rotor, whatever you want to call it, into the end cap here, you slip that up through the, well, first of all you have to slip it through the brushes. Once you've slipped it up through the brushes, you can screw the end cap back onto the brush assembly and slot it all in. Now there is a specific way these go so that the two screws line up down so they miss this wire here, so this needs to go back together like this. So really you should mark the position, but I've done enough of them to know where it goes. So anyway, we'll do that. Okay, so what I had to do was, because this shaft at the top was mushroomed out and wouldn't fit into the bush, which I reckon was the problem with the starter motor in the first place, and shit, it was very tight turning. So now that was probably the whole problem that had all along. So, alright, so basically to get this starter motor, these starter motors back together, sorry, first of all what you need to do is put your plunger into your fork assembly. You then slide your fork into the in between the Bendix assembly and slot the whole assembly down, which I've done off camera because you need two hands. So then your spring sits in here like so, and that's that. So now, providing that's assembled properly, which, yep, that's all in nice and snug, should be able to push your Bendix spring down and pull it up, or push your Bendix assembly down. So now, next of all, what I'll do is slip the rotor assembly, or sorry, the field windings over. So if I can get a decent camera angle, which is about there, what you do is this side here, with the terminal, has to go towards your brushes, or sorry, towards your towards the solenoid. So now just ease your brushes in over it like that and push the whole assembly on. So let's just sit nice and snugly, just line everything up. Now the next thing you want to do is line where the two screws go through down to where the holes are. So now these brushes are totally fucked, but anyway. Alright, so now we're going to put the solenoid back on. So you can't really see what you do. Spring first. Now line it up whichever way it's meant to go, which is that way for my instance. Need to get the spring in its right place, which is a bit hard to do when you're trying to do it vertically, and slip the solenoid back on. So now that's there, we'll just put the two screws in, which are somewhere around here. So do up your screw just to hold the solenoid in there. It's proving a little bit difficult, so we'll do that up, and your second screw. So you only need to do them just so it locates it. So there we go, that assembly on. Next what you do, if you want to, you could connect that up, but I'm not going to bother because it's not needed. So that old assembly should be sitting nicely. So now grease up in there, work out where your washers go, like that one. I'm pretty have to remember that one, where that come from. Well, that might have been off the, yeah, okay, so that was off something else. I don't know what it's doing on the workbench. So anyway, next what happens is your cap assembly will slip over. Now you slip the cap assembly on, make sure your brush, well, the screws that go into the brushes are lined up, and you just screw them in to pull the brushes up. So once we've done that, we'll almost be done. So now you just do those two screws up there, slip these the two long bolts down in, and you might need to jiggle them around a bit before you can locate the holes. Like I've totally missed it there. So then you just rotate until you get the holes and tighten up all your screws, and that's basically back together. Just make sure you have that little spring in there that holds the assembly. So anyway, that's basically reconditioning a alternator. Now pushing out bushes and placing them are a different matter, which I'm not going to do in this instance because they're still in good condition. You can resolder your new brush assemblies in, which I would have done if I'd have had brushes here, but don't have the money to purchase them at the moment, and I want to get back in the car tomorrow. But the main thing was that it was just spinning slowly, and that was because of that end shaft was mushroomed in the case. So anyway, that's basically the job done. Now I'll show you the brushes just for interest's sake. Are pretty worn. So you can see there, they haven't got much meat left on them, they haven't got much spring in them either. So they're very, especially these two on this side, are very worn. So anyway, they would be due for replacement, but that'll be another job for another day. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Okay, so the last thing I thought I'd better mention is number one. If you need to note which way the starter solenoid went around, so this particular one went with this metal bit here to the back, or to the starter connection. And number two, what was number two? Oh yes, sorry. You need to clean up all these connections as you go. So once the paint's dry, because I've just given another spray, as you can see it looks quite nice, I'll get the wire brush and brush them off to make sure they're all nice and clean. So there's good connections, good, you know, what's his name? Make sure to try and keep some decent ground points on it. Don't get paint on the underside here, because that's a ground point. Don't get paint in between these connections here, because they're ground points. So thanks for watching. I have tested it out with a battery, but I think I've already run out of time, so I won't show you that. So thanks for watching. See you.